Welcome to Making a Murderer, Rubberducky video channel.
Rolling with the homies.
Just recorded our opening now.
Oh, that'd be right.
I'm gonna leave it. All right, welcome to the late night podcast, and we've been talking about calling it the late night podcast because it's kind of cute. Okay, you guys. So who's all with us tonight? I got Alice with us. Hey, Alice.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you guys ready to talk about Kratz?
We are definitely
Crap.
ready.
Okay, Jeannie, are you ready to talk about Ken Kratz?
I'm ready and locked and loaded.
Oh, okay.
I got my bucket ready. If we're going to talk about them all night, I'm going to get sick.
Okay, Spooky, are you ready to roll?
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, Strain. Strain, are you ready?
Oh, my. Ready as I'm ever going to be.
Okay, and Dr. Silkman, I realize you're probably going to be very jealous as we talk about Kratz, and that he probably thinks Culhane and Eisenberg are his girlfriends, and I know they're really yours, so I'm sure you're going to have some heated, passionate opinions about this man.
Absolutely. I've seen my psychotherapist this morning, and he's given me 2 thumbs up. I can talk about Kratz.
Ooh, game on, right?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Game on.
Game
Heads
on.
are going to roll.
So, one of the things that I think is interesting about Ken Kratz is he always appears, to me personally, like he thinks he's performing some theatrical event. Even in an interview, whether he was in a trial. What do you think? What do you guys? Somebody grab the talking stick here and tell me what you feel when you have to listen to him.
First of all, I think we need some earphones or some freaking earbuds so we don't have to listen to the high pitch first. That'd be the first thing, I think.
Yeah.
He always just seems to know what to say. Like, he just has it, like, he must pre-prepare some stuff because, like, he just seems to know what he wants to say. Like, he premeditates everything.
I agree. I think it was interesting, like, when you look at the media, and back in 2005, I've done a lot of archive newspaper hunt, like Mystic Jinx does a lot of that too. And when you get in that field, and I'm sure she'll back me on this, you'll type in your subjects, so RAV4, let's say, okay? And you'll get like 11 newspaper hits, and they're from all over the United States or all over Wisconsin. But they're worded identical over and over, like stamped out, and then you'll watch a news press, and it's Kratz talking the same exact stuff. So it's all pre-rehearsed, it's all spoon-fed off of one funneled stew of crap, that they're pulling it from. And we've all gotten to the point we know that these fantastic stories he talked about of how this crime would have taken place would have been, dismemberment and torture and rape and blah, blah, blah. But the bones can't tell us anything about any sexual mishappenings. Correct, Dr.
Correct.
Maybe he was like seeing his own personal snuff film in his head.
Ugh. Yeah.
That's how it feels to me. Like, if you ever see, every time he talks or everything, it's like, oh, yeah, this is exactly how it happened. Yeah, what, in your own mind?
Or what comes to mind when you said that to me is he had to have been aware that there was that kind of bad searching going on over at the Dassey residence, maybe, that got him thinking
with the
about
computer,
it.
Or maybe he watched Kiss the Girls.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
Or maybe he was actually a porno freaking director and decided that that's exactly how he wanted it to go. Well, he does have a hit.
Don't apologize for your own opinion. You have the right to that.
It just the way he talks and the way he acts and just the way he thinks everything is, it has, not only does it have to fit his, I guess, his little story, but he has to make sure everybody understands that that's exactly what happened. So if this is exactly how it happened, then how else could it be? Like, if he gives you one thing, then he's going to roll with it and make sure that everybody rolls with that one thing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a little bit easy when you're writing the script.
Well, it's easier to be the writer than the director, right?
Yeah.
I think he's doing a bit of both.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what, also, it comes to mind that this would have been a very difficult predicament for investigators if they're trying to keep up to prove that the prosecutor's words actually match the evidence. If Kratz is running his mouth, how hard is that to imagine keeping up with?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, and then...
It's like he's narrating or he's reading canned messages. But like what you were saying, the evidence holding up to what he's saying during that press release, I mean,
It doesn't, though. If you notice how, like, they fall so short, like, the one press release, he comes in and he tells everybody, when they say, well, one of the reporters screams out or yells out, I should say yell, and he yelled out, was there actual blood in the RAV? And he acts startled for a minute, and then he's like, what? And he takes a different question. The guy yells over the person. He says, did you find any blood in the RAV? And every one of the reporters gets dead quiet. And he's on the spot. Yeah. Yes, we did. We found blood in the RAV. And he goes to continue with a different question. And the reporter yells over everybody, and they all shut up right away. And he says, where in the RAV?
Where?
Mm-hmm. Where? And all of a sudden, Kratz is sitting there on live TV in front of however many thousands that are watching. He has no chance to get out of this. He says, pools of blood underneath the back seat. Pools of great blood. And we're like, there's pools of blood in the back seat? Now,
bring in the blood.
Now we know they were never.
Where is the blood?
There is no
blood.
Where is the blood?
He was caught off guard. He's making stuff up as he went in that thing. He was ad-libbing 100%. And that was one thing they couldn't go as far to do, is to create pools of blood.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've observed Ken Kratz for a long period of time, and I've made up my own sort of like summary, but we can discuss that later on. Right. It's good to get everyone's opinions.
Yeah. I think also with the problem with Kratz is, think of this. So this is a man that got into legal issues with sexting and drug addiction. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that the behavior of this sexual over-the-top stuff he was saying to these women, it also has played a big role in this case, because if you look at the Brendan Dassey case, we don't see the evidence to back up the story. Well, Dr. Silkman,
coercion.
Yeah. Dr. Silkman, if you want to kind of jump in here, you're very familiar and educated on the Brendan case, the storyline.
Well, essentially what he was trying to do is reconstruct a narrative which was purely speculative, because what must have frustrated the investigators was a complete lack of forensic evidence to back up anything that either Brendan Dassey had said or what Ken Kratz was trying to reconstruct. Now, here's the issue. Because he went on live TV and he came up with a purely speculative scenario, he was locked into that. And so when the forensic scientists were looking at the trailer, when they were looking at the garage, absolutely nothing fit what Ken Kratz said on TV in front of a live audience. So he was boxed in, and that's why the reporters were asking him very pointed questions, and it was embarrassing. He couldn't provide an answer.
Right. And it wasn't just that. Because he pointed at certain things, then you got the put her in here and put her in there. Well, the reason they had to do that is because he'd already ran his mouth.
Correct. And so if you notice, because there was a lack of forensic evidence and it looked really, really bad for the state, we have the introduction of the key, and we have the introduction of the swab from the hood latch, and we also have item FL. So these three items are peripheral items. They're introduced because what Ken Kratz told the world nothing could be supported. It was a pure 100% fantasy, which means any of us in this podcast can come up with a story. It's purely speculative, and how we're going to disprove it.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that hood latch, just briefly. So I was reading the CASO today, and they were talking about the hood latch swab, and I was thinking about the hood that follows the RAV all over the place in all the pictures. So when you look at the RAV, it's sitting in the wooden crate in the evidence picture, and behind it you can see something leaning on the back wall. And that's the hood that was laying on the RAV to cover it up.
Yep.
So I was thinking, why didn't they keep the rest of the stuff that they found covering up the RAV if it was evidentiary? And then I'm like, there's a reason they kept that piece. And I'm like, it's a freaking hood. What if? Whoa. What if? It's as simple as that was to a vehicle that the person that planted the RAV was familiar that Steven had actually touched and opened the hood on. And when they said they did a hood latch swab and they need another one, they still have the source to get it from, and it's a swap.
That is entirely possible, but we actually don't even have to go as elaborate as that. We all know who's got all the swabs.
Yeah.
One person's got them all.
Your girlfriend.
This is
Your
true.
girlfriend.
Yeah, inner magic covered.
So what I want to show you here is, this is the type of guy we're looking at. This is ex-boy toy 1. This is Ken Kratz. Now, he's had problems with all kinds of stuff, but if you look here, he's talking about currently separated, final divorce pending. He's already looking for someone. And he's talking about being sappy romantic. He owns his own home and amazing life experiences. Look at his picture. I'm sorry, you guys. Ex-boy toy. That tells you already something about this type of individual, where he's, sexting people that are domestic abuse victims that he's supposed to be prosecuting the assailant on. His behavior is totally irrational. And look at this case. It's all about that beforehand. It's all about the sex part. He talks about rape, he talks about torture, he talks about all kinds of horrible stuff, and never once do the bones even show that that's a possibility. There's nothing there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Sookman, but there's nothing of these bones to even suggest there was a crime of sex.
Zero. Remember, they looked at the cuffs, the restraints, they looked at the bed head, they looked at the mattress, the bed sheets, they even took the wood paneling from his room, they took his carpet, you name it. And you know how much they found? Zero.
For the last few days, guess what? My favorite thing to read is over and over and over.
No evidence?
Presumptive. Wait for this one, you're going to love it. Presumptive test showed negative for blood. Presumptive test showed negative for blood. Yeah. I've read that so many times. And guess what we're testing?
Yeah.
The whole bedroom.
Yeah, for blood. Yeah, everything. Mm-hmm. And that's why the entire thing is speculative. The whole recollection of that scenario that Ken Kratz did on national TV was purely 100% speculative.
Fantasy even. Borderline with his personality that he has shown.
No doubt.
In my opinion, I would say that this was a particular fantasy in his head that he has concocted, because the evidence is not there to support anything on the Brendan Dassey coercion. There's nothing to support the evidence that he's speaking of in this bedroom of Steven's. It's nothing to support that Teresa even entered that trailer home.
Yep. And the way Ken Kratz presented it was that he tried to make Steven Avery's bedroom as a torture chamber. And where have we seen that before? Where has Brendan seen that before?
I think it'd be in the movie. You did a video on the movie Kiss the Girls, and from my understanding, it's right in there.
Yeah, yes it is.
And Brendan himself at trial was asked where he may have got this information, this story from.
Yes.
And I remember what he said on the trial. Kiss the girls.
Yep.
Kiss the girls.
Correct.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, I suggest that video.
Yeah, correct.
And movie so that you can tell that the video is dead on. That is a piece of very, very good information to review, because when you really dig in and you pay attention, Dr. Silkman and one of our other researchers pointed out how many points of match we have per the video, the movie, versus actually what was pointed out by quote-unquote investigators.
Yeah, it's
Let
that.
the video
it's
play
that
in your
bad.
mind.
I wish I could laugh, but it's probably true.
Well, the reason I giggle,
true.
the reason I actually giggle is because some people doubt that could have happened. It seems so clear to me that, in my opinion, that happened. And so I have to kind of giggle a little bit when people say, I wonder where he got all that crap from. And somebody says, oh, could it be from Kiss the Girls? And people go, I don't know. I'm like, then you didn't read the book, or you didn't look at the movie.
Yeah, correct.
That's the way I feel. Yeah. But that's my personal opinion. Okay, you guys, let's move on a little bit. The reason we're talking about Kratz is because of the thing Kratz pulled. I just wanted to establish what kind of individual we really have on our hands. We have somebody that is not afraid to lie in the least, obviously, because there's no pools of blood under the Rav's seat. There's no crime scene in Steven's trailer, but he fed it confidently to thousands and thousands of people that this all happened in the bedroom. He even moved the crime to a garage, which we never found blood in. Item FL is the only thing that had any of the victim's DNA on it, and even that is disputed.
Yeah.
That's totally disputed.
Yeah.
So you guys, when it came to swabs, Dr. Silkman, you've done a great job of expressing one option, which would be swapping, which we can clearly walk through that to see that if that did occur, it would not have been difficult, and it would have been an easy way to fool the FBI into not knowing that they had the wrong stuff.
Correct.
And then some of the other things that we've done, we've talked about swapping of stuff as well. Like we noticed that they're swapping out the evidence for different tags consistently. They're swapping. And I'm starting to feel like I'm at a swap meet,
Yeah. Just like burn barrel number 2 is Yonda's now, and it was deer camps before.
Yes, Jeannie, and that's what I want to really talk about. So we got to get into some detailed stuff, and I'm hoping that those that are listening take some time to actually think about what we're going over. There are not just a handful of people that feel this way or believe this way. We've had literally hundreds of researchers over the last 4 years have made anything from Reddits to WordPresses, tweets, and they all believe that at some point a barrel got switched from deer camp up to replace a barrel at Steven Avery's, and then that barrel got fed into evidence planted at Steve Avery's as Steven Avery's barrel. And so that's what we're going to be walking through, and in order to break that down, we have to go through evidence. We have to go through the evidence logs. We've got to go through the Eisenberg reports, because we're talking bones. We have to talk about Kuss Road and deer camp, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and we also have recorded evidence of them at deer camp saying what's in the barrel, and those items seem to turn up in the Yonda barrel.
Yeah. Well, and they can actually go back and listen to Kuss Road investigation. One of you volunteered to kind of give us your opinion of why you think Zellner feels the bones are so important in this case.
Because there's more than one set of them, and they're everywhere. That's why they're so important. If they were all to one person, as suggested, and they all belong to one person, why are they in so many different places in the entire case?
Okay. That's definitely a good point of view to look at it. I mean, there's
For me, the bones if the majority of the bones, which is how I feel, are found off of the Avery property, then the killing happened off of the Avery property. And there is no way that someone kills her off the property, being Steve Avery, and then takes the evidence back to his home.
I agree.
That just doesn't happen.
Right. Nobody is going to pull the evidence right in their own backyard and wait for the cops to come say who did it.
Yeah.
Correct.
And also, they only found 25 to 35% of human remains in the Steven Avery burn pile. So that's only part of her. Where's the rest of her? All scattered throughout these other barrels.
Yep,
We don't-
excellent point.
We don't know for sure that it's Teresa. Bones.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, Spooky, I agree with you. And you know what? A lot of people agree. And because there is such a controversy of information regarding that, I would ask, so that we can stay focused on just this tonight, if we just refer to it as a victim, okay? That way we're
Okay.
not drawing a conclusion for anybody right now, and we can kind of focus, because Spooky brings up a great point. We can't prove anything at this point on this victim. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole, as they say. So, on the first thing I want to show you guys is I want to go to the evidence log, the ledger, the CASO evidence ledger, and it shows that number 9 on here is evidence tag 8675. So that's the property tag number of it. And it's marked number 9 on here. And it says debris pile contents 0 dot. But it gives you a location. It gives you the GPS.
Yeah.
So let's go back up to documents. I just wanted to show you, they had listed the GPS, so we were able to take that and actually show you where this debris pile came from. Now, the next thing I want you to do is look at the next 8675, where you can see chain of custody. And the date. Well, let's start with the number. The number is 9. So what are we talking about? What's number 9? 8675, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
And what does it say there?
Debris pile contents.
But if you go down to the chain of custody, though, and you find 9, I've circled it there for you.
Oh, yes.
Only human.
Well. Something that's
A
only
victim.
human.
So that's a
Yeah.
victim.
Yeah, now are you ready for tonight? Because we're about to show you what really happened on Kuss Road. So if you notice the date on this form.
Are you talking about in the evidence, the 200911?
Yeah, so it's September 20th, 2011. Why is that date important?
Because that's when they returned the bones.
And what did they return? Only human?
Not Stevens. Nowhere near where the alleged crime took place.
Who in the world wrote that down?
Well, let's look.
Wow.
Can you see the J.
Mark
Hawkins?
Uyghur. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. No, I thought you
Yeah,
meant
it
the
is.
end name. It's Mark Uyghur.
yeah, he's the last
And we
one.
got-
He's the last one to get it out of evidence. And guess what? We don't show that it left him. There's no other custody log to show you. So Hallbox never signed for any of the bones, just so you know. It always ends with Mark Uyghur. Got him. Okay. Now I want you to go to the next form. Now the next form is Eisenberg's bone report.
Oh,
So on 9/20/11, they list out the coordinates of the bone, and only human. So it's human bone, according to Mark Uyghur himself and Jeremy Hawkins. And they tag it 8675, but then we get over here to Eisenberg, and she says it's a sacrum fragment. And Dr. Silkman, how do I pronounce that other word?
inanimate.
Inanimate fragment. Dr.
It's part of the hip.
Oh, yeah. And in her narrative reports, Dr. Eisenberg notes that the bone fragments shown above have cut marks. As identifications of such a nature fall outside of this author's expertise, the reports prepared by the forensic anthropologist should be referred or referenced for bone condition.
Mm-hmm.
And she also said that they were the remains were burnt to the point of calcinide, and that they were similar to the bones that were calcinide in the Yonda barrel also. She said that.
Right.
They were all burnt to approximately the same condition. Some of them were calcined, and they were also fragmented as well.
Yeah, and they all had cuts and saw marks.
Yes, they did. They had cut marks and saw marks.
Yeah.
So remember Ken Kratz telling everybody how there was tires piled on top of the victim and it was burnt that way as a fuel?
Yeah.
Question. Now, you did not detect the distinctive smell of burnt rubber from any of the containers you examined here that contain human bone fragments? Answer. I did not. Question. And by that, I mean any of the containers, all of the tag numbers from whatever source. Answer. I did not. Question. Neither did you note any residue from, let's say, burnt rubber that is visible to you in any of the containers you examined? Answer.
Yeah.
No burnt rubbers.
Nope.
That's correct.
Which completely throws out the door of her being burnt in the burn pit with rubber tires used as fuel.
And that's
straight out.
Prosecution's expert.
Yep, that's straight out.
So Zellner's explanation of burn barrel 2, I wanted to share this. She says, bone fragments could not, and this is in one of her reports actually, she says bone fragments could not have actually been located in burn barrel number 2 because this barrel had already been sifted by Wisconsin State Crime Lab personnel on November 7th, and no human bone fragments were discovered in this barrel or any of the barrels examined at that time. During the examination of barrel number 2 on November 7, 2005, Wisconsin personnel used the same sifting apparatus that they later used to sift the burn pit behind Mr. Avery's garage. Suspiciously, the pieces of burned bone that were eventually found in barrel number 2 were noticeably larger than the bone fragments in the burn pit. If bone fragments had been in burn barrel number 2 when it was examined by Mr. Ertl and his team from Wisconsin State Crime Lab on November 7th, 2005, the bone fragments would have been isolated by their sifting apparatus. So in other words, they would have caught it.
That, yeah, you can't explain how they got through.
Right. So I got to thinking, let's figure these barrels out. So let's do a quick count, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is day 3 in the trial, okay? And it's Bobby Dassey talking about burn barrels. My mom's burning barrels is the answer. Question, how many were there? Answer, 3. Question, are you sure? Answer, I don't know. I thought there were 3. Question, okay. Where were the burn barrels located? Answer, in our backyard right behind our garage. Question, and this picture has some people in it. Do you know who these people are? Answer, no. Question, now to the left or behind the burn barrels are some vehicles. Do you know how far away those are? And in other words, how close to your property are we looking at? Answer, pause. Question, that's a bad question. Let me try it again. The barrels, how close were they to the edge of what would be your mom's property? Answer, 25 yards, 30 yards. So he's saying 3 barrels, and they're quite a ways back from the house.
Yep.
So then we know we have Stephen has 1 barrel. So that's how many barrels, guys?
4.
4 for now.
Right? But then we get page 248 of the CASO. And it's a remarkable page. It's the most important page on the entire 1,117 pages, in my opinion, besides 249. But we'll get there. So this is the CASO Deer Camp first piece of bone found. So we're looking at 11/12/05. It says, processing item 643, a 55-gallon burn barrel with miscellaneous items inside. They did find various bone fragments. So if you look, they're saying 642, 643, 644, and now 645 are 4 barrels, are all 55-gallon barrels, correct?
Yep.
Well, I read that there was only two 55-gallon gallon barrels, and they belong to the Redans.
Ah, well, we're going to find out in a little bit here. We can definitely say 643 is a 55-gallon barrel. It's got miscellaneous stuff in it, including they did find various bones. So if you kind of scroll through this, you can see that 7958 is burnt material with the words Deer Camp Burn Barrel printed on the container. So Deer Camp, so DC, which was found at the deer camp near location. So DC Deer Camp printed on it. Property tag 7960, burned bone from deer camp area, was turned over to me at 1017. Then property tag number 7961, again, burnt material, and it just says site E10, and it says turned over. And then property tag number 7962, 7963. If you look at 62, it's from site E9, and 63 would be deer camp there. But what's interesting is where we're fixing to go with this is I'm going to show you what it says on one of the barrels. Okay? Because remember, he said right there the words Deer Camp Burn Barrel printed on the container. All right. At 1038, the first piece of bone was located in the burn pile from item 643. Right now, that would be barrel number 2 from the Dasseys according to this report, because it says burn barrel number 2. The collection of the burnt bone pieces and possible tissue pieces was turned over to me, right?
Yep.
So you're going to see the CASO ledgers there.
Yep.
And we're going to go through it. So 642 is a 55-gallon barrel. 643, what size is that one, guys?
55.
55.
What's 644?
55.
55.
What's 645?
55.
55.
So are there any 50-gallon barrels in the first 4 barrels they collect?
No, ma'am.
Nope.
Nope. So apparently we've got 4 barrels, 642, 643, 644, and 645, and none of them are 50-gallon. So when we look at this, you have to ask, okay, where did these things actually go? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
And it says they're transported to sheriff's office. Then they get transported to the sheriff's office again, but how'd they do that? I mean, where'd they go that they had to be transported back to the sheriff's department? Completely missed that. Then it says for evidence storage. And then we get a whole nother page. We get 3 pages where these barrels go, okay? Crime lab tech, custody. So it just takes custody at the crime lab. Transport to trailer. Return to evidence. Transfer over to crime lab individuals. Return from crime lab individuals. Now, what does it say for process date by DCI there?
Yep, correct.
11/12.
Yep, 11.
They've already processed it, so now they're going to go back through it. This is when they find bones. They've already processed it. These barrels have already been to the crime lab and back. They've already processed it, just like Zellner said, and this is the proof. So then it says, if you look at 1, 2, 3, and all of a sudden 4 isn't in the picture, 5 isn't in the picture anymore. It says secured is outside. Garage. What? They just forget about him. They give up on him. Okay, so they just give up. They're just outside somewhere, I guess. I don't know. In some garage. Then we go to the 16th that says Manitowoc did not pick up. So they stored him somewhere, and Manitowoc didn't pick him up. So then on 11/21, they take him back to the crime lab. Then they send him back in to the custodian at CASO, at Calumet. Then they go to the crime lab. They're sending these things back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it goes all the way through 06.
Yep.
402 supplemental report. Jeremy Hawkins. We have 6 barrels. Are you ready to count them? We have only 3 55-gallon barrels now. 642, 643, and 644. 645 is gone, right?
Yep.
Did you notice how it fell off?
Yes.
But instead of 645, which was Steven Avery's in my opinion, we've got a 50-gallon burn barrel that's half full. keep in mind, Steven Avery's is only a quarter full. And his is gone. So now we've got a 50-gallon burn barrel that's half full of material. And it's now bearing the property tag 7102. And then, all of a sudden, you guys, we have 2 other metal barrels with burning material. And we're now giving them a new property tag number, 7921 and 7922. And we have 6 barrels minus Steven's barrel.
Yep.
Phew. That's,
So you say, okay, maybe it's a typo. So I did another one. It's the other guy's report. Now we're looking at Jeremy Hawkins' report with Rick Reamer.
Yep.
And guess what? We have property tag 643, 55 gallon, 642, 55 gallon, 644, 55 gallon, property tag 7102, 50 gallon.
50.
Yep.
7921 metal barrel, 7922 metal barrel.
Yep. So a couple of barrels have gone missing.
Yeah, big time.
Two or three?
2, because we had.
2.
Yeah, because we had.
2.
Definitely 2. Definitely
We're still
2.
at 6.
We're still at 6 barrels, but 2 are missing.
Yep.
So now let me see here. So we've got number 1 is 642, number 2 is 643, number 3 is 644, number 4 is 645, and those are barrels, right? 4 barrels there.
Yep.
Okay. 55 gallon barrel, 55 gallon barrel, 55 gallon barrel, 55 gallon barrel. Now let's slide down and let's go to barrels on ledger. We have 7921 metal barrel with burnt material. And it says by possible, what does that say, guys? East Most Lane?
Yes.
Yeah, by East Most Lane.
Okay.
I think it's by resident. Is it by RES?
Yeah,
Res?
resident. By East Most Lane. So that's not Stevens, by resident. Okay. But there's something they screwed up on. I'm so happy to find. Look at 7922. Somebody just read that line. I just want to listen.
Metal barrel with burnt material. I can't make that out. And it says number 4 on it. It says number 4 on it, literally.
So, where'd we learn that 7922 came from? Ha. Came out of nowhere, and it's barrel number 4, but barrel number 4 is 645. Where'd that go? Where'd 645 go?
Rolled
it's
away.
Number 4. It rolled away. And now what do we have for deer camp? We have barrel number 4 on it.
Yeah.
Do you see how they pull this off?
Number 4. It's almost like they wrote down the notes so that they could remember the key to the system of the switching.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's really number 1. Somebody write that down somewhere.
The thing is it's quite clear what they've done. They've switched out the barrels. So there are barrels down on Kuss Road. We've already heard that the stuff came. A barrel with deer camp written on it. So I want you to go to photos. I want you to look.
Photos?
Yeah. It says 50 gallon burn barrel. Now remember, what size were all of them at the Avery property?
Did they say 55?
You got it. But we're looking at a 50 gallon, and you can tell it's shorter than all the other barrels.
Yeah.
If you look down onto the middle of that barrel that they're photographing with the little orange property tag on it,
Yep.
you'll see a little smudge white mark where it looks like it got kind of discolored.
Yeah.
Do you see some printing on that barrel?
To me, it looks like it says Dodge, but
Nah, I bet you Camp. DC?
You got it.
no.
Oh, Jesus.
Good
I don't
one.
want to go any further. I want to go home now.
Well,
No way.
You tell me what it says, you guys. Look at it. I'm not going to tell you what it says because I think it's important for people to pay attention. Now, they just got done saying what it said on that barrel. It was marked Deer Camp.
DC. It looks like KJR.
What that says is
11-11-05.
RJP. So
RJP.
that would be Pivotal. And it says
Oh.
examined DCI, and you guys tell
Yeah.
me the date.
11/11/05.
5, yeah.
And who by? Pivotal. State Crime Lab.
Pivotal.
Yep. Yep.
Where'd we just
Well,
find out the
that-
barrel came from?
Deer
Deer
camp.
camp.
What barrel came from Deer Camp? I have marked on it.
4.
Number 4, right?
4.
What
Yep.
did Ken Kratz want us to bring back?
Barrel number 4.
Drop the mic, walk away kind of deal? I don't know, you guys.
Wow.
Well,
pretty good.
that blows my mind on multiple levels.
Well, we knew that they switched some of the barrels. We just didn't know how and when. And now we see it on paper.
They switched 2 barrels for sure. They switched out Steven's barrel for Deer Camp's. And when we listened to that recording, what did it talk about at the barrel cell phone, right?
Right.
What did they claim was in Steven's barrel in the trial?
The cell phone, the electronics.
Mm-hmm. And then we have bones in a barrel.
Which were the ones they switched at Yonda's.
Mm-hmm. They switch out barrel 2 and barrel 4. And they bring up 2 barrels from Deer Camp. Well, it says in here, if you do your research, you'll finally come across a part where they actually send them to off-site storage, is what it says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean this is ridiculous, mind-blowing and ridiculous, because if 8675 actually came from that burn barrel, then we know where she was actually incinerated, in that burn barrel. And they did the switcheroo, and they brought 2 burn barrels from the Deer Camp onto the Avery property.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, something I read today, they waited 2 hours before they called DCI in down at Kuss.
Mm-hmm.
2 hours to set up.
2 hours they had before they called in the cavalry, if you would.
Yep.
My mind is just absolutely blown. I have no idea. My brain is just fried now.
Jeannie, do you have any feelings on this?
Well, there's just so many swapping things, like going finding bones on the Redan property, pelvic bones on the iliac crest part and all that, and then finding bones that are so damaged, knowing that Eisenberg thinks that they're calcined, and then we're finding bits of all these bones in every single barrel. So what they do, just shuffle them around a little bit here, a little bit there. That's the only part that gets me. Why would they do that?
It seems that it seems like it's what they're really, really good at is switching things around, switching your view and your way of thinking. To me, it makes complete, especially that Stevens is the only barrel that is not like the rest of them.
Well, the original list shows that they're all 55 gallons originally, and then we end up with what I believe to be 250 gallons in the long run.
Mind blown, of course. Well, it now makes perfect sense, because if we look at the events down at Kuss Road, there's a lot of activity at Kuss Road. There's obviously activity at the Deer Camp, but does this all fit in terms of timeline? Because Kuss Road happened on the 7th, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does this
I can walk you through that in a little bit. We're going to go into the timeline next.
All right, okay.
You're
okay,
right on.
that,
You are right on the next point on top of it. Strain,
Yep.
what is your feeling? What's your takeaway from everything?
I have a great game called the Shell Game that I've learnt recently. A great guy called Dr. Silkman, you might have met him. I think they're very good magicians, and that a little bit of look at this hand over here. Well, this hand over here is actually doing some shit. I mean, stuff. It's just, I mean, you look at the maps, you look at the ATVs, you look at all the barrels, you look at all the buckets, all the things that they had opportunities to swap play games with, and it's exactly how they could have done it.
When you look at this, you say, okay, how could this timeline have happened? So that's where we get into a very unique situation where we have 4 barrels loaded up and taken to Calumet. And it's 642, 643, 644, and 645 are all taken to the Calumet Sheriff's Department. And this is where Zellner's talking about John Ertl and the rest of the state crime lab sifting through these 4 barrels where number 2 is completely sifted. Now consider number 2 a bone barrel. This is where we're going to find a bone, okay? Number 2 is supposedly right off of the Dassey property. They find nothing. Absolutely nothing there. They complete it, they're done. This is prior to the 7th. Then we have Kuss Road. They come back on the 12th. And let's get into the 12th. This is where we're going to jump back and forth a little bit in time. So they're going to go back to that barrel, and all of a sudden, the second time around on the 12th, they're going to find something. But my problem with what they find is what they say on page 248. So for just a moment, remember that 643 is a barrel that was a quarter of the way full, and it was barrel number 2, and it got taken to the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. They sorted through on it earlier time. Now they're going back through it again.
Yep.
And this time, they find burnt bone pieces and possible tissue pieces. And it is turned over to Deputy Rick Reamer, as per 248. But if you look at this, what's interesting is, they're talking about burned bone from Deer Camp area on 7960, 7961, material from Site E10, 7962, Site E9, and 7963, burnt material from Deer Camp, and it's all turned over to him. And all of a sudden now we've got 643, and it's got bone fragments that appear. So it shows they've collected the stuff from Deer Camp, and now barrel 2's got bones in it, but it didn't have it before when they sifted through. That's Zellner's point.
Yep.
And so you have to say, okay, at what point did we get into this whole bone argument with the state that they thought that they did not need to preserve any evidence? Well, a meeting took place in Madison, Wisconsin on September 18, 2017, where a current post-conviction counsel and the state agreed to further testing on crime scene evidence. Among other items of evidence, it was agreed that a microscopic examination would be conducted of suspected human pelvic bone found in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. The parties agreed a microscopic examination of the pelvic bone by Dr. Eisenberg, by Dr. Steven Symes, Mr. Avery's forensic anthropologist, to determine if the bone was human. Clearly, by agreeing to this examination, the state recognized that the outcome of this examination was material and relevant to the larger issue in the case about the location of the murder and mutilation of Mrs. Halbach's body. Prior to the parties being able to complete this microscopic examination, the circuit court, without awareness of the parties' agreement, dismissed Mr. Avery's motion for post-conviction relief. The circuit court's action in dismissing the appeal and denying Mr. Avery's motion to reconsider and its supplements is an issue for Mr. Avery's pending appeal. So you can see where they've actually already agreed and had meetings that these bones were going to be tested, and then the actual motion for other stuff, it dismissed it all without any warning whatsoever. It was almost like it dawned on them, wait a minute, we don't have the bones or something.
Well, either that or they knew they were done like a dinner.
Yeah, because, well, they said that they want to have the ability to do the testing when it was reasonably becomes available to Mr. Avery to do it as a matter of science and finances, regardless of when that happens during the trial. So I'm just looking ahead. So they're just trying to plant to say that this stuff it's already been proved to be kept. Like the CD case is small enough to be preserved, and there's also a preservation
Statute 962.
statute. Yes.
Yep. But still, game over. I mean, we've got a barrel. It's shorter than the rest. We're supposed to have all 55. All of a sudden, we've got a 50-gallon. It's got DC written on it. And
Yes.
we have 645 disappearing, completely off radar. It's gone. All of a
Yes.
sudden, we have 7102 and cell phone barrel.
Yes. The only thing I want to know, Rubberducky, is did they actually provide any GPS for anything found at the deer camp?
Oh, I've got it. Okay.
Yeah.
There was an excavation site not pertinent to this case. The GPS coordinates,
That's yeah. Tell me what it is.
page 137 of the CASO, and the GPS coordinates for this area were N44,
Hold on. N44. Yeah.
15.263.
15.263.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else?
West 87.
Hold on. Let me put a comma. West. Yep.
Degrees.
West what?
42.031.
Is this the site that she was saying that they said had no importance?
Yeah. That's the one that. That's the one where they said that there was nothing to see here.
Okay.
Now
Like Kuss Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just straight off Kuss Road. I'll see if I could pop it
I
in.
bet you it's where they have that little dirt road taped off and it goes in.
Yep, that's the spot. It's in the woods. It's in that area that you see where those guys are.
Yeah, I see the two guys.
Yeah, it's in that area there. It's in the woods
Okay.
because they've got like crime scene tape everywhere.
What we basically come up with is that the incident on Kuss Road was at this location we're showing here. That is not, quote, pertinent to this case, correct? According to
Correct.
Dietering or whoever.
Correct.
We have two different GPSs. We have the bones, which are in the Manitowoc County gravel pit, and the other GPS is taking us to Kuss Road, is where they're listing it off in the CASO report as this incident that's not pertinent to the case. However, we've got a barrel that appears, like we said, to have the DC on it. It's shorter than the rest. It's a 50-gallon. 642, 643, 644, and 645 are all quoted as 55-gallon. 645 disappears. All of a sudden, we have 7102, and it's a 50-gallon. And it's coming into the timeline. So let's talk about timeline a little bit. When do they claim that they find their first bone, you guys?
Is it the 8th?
Says 10:38 hours. The first piece of bone was located in the burn pile from item number 643, burn barrel number 2.
Yeah, they're talking about the bones in the barrels. They're not talking about the fire pit.
Okay. So the first barrel is found on the 12th. If they're on Kuss Road on the 7th,
Yep.
and they've switched out barrel 2, and they've switched out Steven Avery's barrel, then that would explain why on the 7th that DCI went through barrel 2 and there was nothing there.
They already went through it.
Yeah. Then they get switched and they go back through the barrel on the 12th, and all of a sudden burn barrel 2 has burnt pieces of bones and possible tissue. And this entire sheet is about deer camp and site E10 and site E9.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so now let me grab this. We're going to go to 249 of the CASO. It says first item of evidence they were able to collect would have been that of a burned garbage in an area that we refer to as deer camp located at Randit property, southwest of Steven Avery's residence. The final two pieces would have been of that of some bone and flesh located in the Michaels material quarry to the northeast of
God.
the Avery property. And it says at 900 hours, at 9 o'clock in the morning, 11:12, I pulled all officers into the command post. We then began to break down the area, and at 11:28 a.m. on 11/12, Special Investigator Tom Fassbender turned the property over to the Averys. Back over to the Averys.
Jeepers.
So they made their switcheroony,
And then
they're
shut
done.
it down.
They're done.
Then shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they shut it down.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're looking at is the barrels being switched out from Kuss Road and going up to Stevens, and we have Kuss Road happening on the 7th, and we have the bone found on the 8th. Then we have them going through the barrels on the 6th, and DCI not saying they found anything on barrel 2. Then they go back into the barrel on 12th, and bam, they've got bone.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's easy enough to see that on the 7th they hit Kuss Road. They find
Yes.
They find debris piles. They find a cell phone in a burn barrel. Dogs are hitting on the back stoop of Deer Camp. They follow right up to Kuss Road. We have an ambulance there. We've got the crime lab there. We have all kinds of dark-looking vehicles. We have State Patrol there. We have DCI there. And they collect barrels. That's what we're seeing on the road is barrels. Page 152 of the CASO.
Yep.
Jeremy Hawkins on the 8th. Now keep in mind, the day of the 8th, supposedly they find their bones in the pit, right?
Correct, because they showed Dr. Bennett.
And what barrel was marked for, everybody?
Number 4.
Yeah, Deer Camp.
Yeah.
Now listen to what he says. On 11/08/05, John Ertl, Charles Cates, and Guan Singh from Wisconsin State Crime Lab arrived at the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. The 3 barrels that were remaining at the Sheriff's Department, a barrel Deputy Matuzek had brought back from the Avery property and a Suzuki Samurai door were signed over to John Ertl. While John Ertl, Charles Cates, and Guan Zhang were going through the barrels, I again continued logging in evidence once it arrived from the crime scene at the Avery property. Now listen close. Remember, barrel 4 marked on it comes from Deer Camp. We know that for a fact. Here's what it says. I contacted District Attorney D.A. Kenneth Kratz.
Yep, that's the one.
And asked D.A. Kratz about keeping the barrels. I was advised by D.A. Kratz that the barrels from the Avery property would remain in evidence. D.A. Kratz also wanted the barrel marked number 4 that was returned to the Avery property to be brought back. So he just gave it away. The barrel marked 4, Ken Kratz is behind this. I'm going to read this one more time. I'm going to read it all the way through for you. I contacted District Attorney D.A. Kenneth Kratz and asked D.A. Kratz about keeping the barrels. I was advised by D.A. Kratz that the barrels from Avery property would remain in evidence. D.A. Kratz also wanted the barrel marked 4. Now we know that barrel marked 4 on it comes from Deer Camp. He says he wanted the barrel marked number 4 that was returned to the Avery property. So that means Deer Camp barrel went where? Avery property. Wanted that brought back. Okay. After talking with D.A. Kratz, arrangements were made for long-term storage in the back garage of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department.
Do you know from your readings, did Ken Kratz have a personal vendetta against Steven Avery? Did these two rub shoulders in the past?
I couldn't tell you.
I haven't read anything.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But you have to consider Kratz is, I can't say on air what I really think. Kratz enjoys being center stage for his acting career. Yes. And this is, as he put it himself, he was part of a notorious case. So what's he getting out of it?
Yeah. He's trying to get exposure.
Notoriety, his books.
Yep.
But it's all going to come crashing down.
He's trying to get women. Let's not.
Well, he's a sexual predator, so.
Thank you very
Human
much.
reference.
Jeannie's
Mom.
opinion is he's a sexual predator. I have to say, in my opinion, I would stay away from him.
Yeah, I
so
would too.
Ding, ding, ding.
there's a key part of what this says. I want to read it one more time for the listeners, just in case you didn't catch it. So, marked 4 right on the barrel also has deer camp marked. It says, well, we have a barrel and it's got DC, DC stamped right on the barrel, deer camp. Okay, the deer camp barrel is marked number 4. And DA Kratz is also wanting barrel marked 4.
Yep.
That was returned to Avery property. See, that's the key. Right there, Kratz told on himself.
Yeah.
The barrel went from deer camp right there. It was taken from
And then
deer
back.
camp to Avery property, and he wants it brought back here.
Back. Yeah.
They decided to keep it until it wasn't necessary to keep it.
Interesting how they keep it, but they don't keep the bones, right?
Mm-hmm. That's my point.
So on the same sheet of paper, 11/8, they find the bones at Avery's. What are they doing with barrel 4 from deer camp?
Mm.
They're bringing up deer camp barrel contents to Avery's. Right here.
Yeah.
Barrel
And
4.
on this.
It says marked barrel 4. It doesn't say numbered barrel 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't say labeled. It says marked barrel 4. And
Well, I
we have-
suspect that they switched Barb's barrel also then.
So what I'm trying to connect here is barrel 4, which apparently is being brought back from deer camp to the Avery property, then is being brought to Calumet County on the 8th. And this is the day that they say they found the bones at Steven Avery's pit in Burn Barrel.
And it's the Kratz that wants it back.
Yep, absolutely. And what's interesting is this Jeremy Hawkins, he goes on to say, on the 8th, on the same report, I was advised by Calumet County command posts located on the Avery property, get some items that were brought back from the Avery property ready for pickup by DCI agent Matthew Joy to transport to Wisconsin Crime Lab located in Madison. Guess what's on the Avery property?
Well, isn't there a truck where they load all the barrels on?
Yep. But guess what they go right into from barrel 4? Property tag number 7096, a toothbrush and chapstick. Property tag number 7097, lip moisturizer and hairbrush. Property tag number 7098, a maroon case containing a vibrator sexual device. These items were repackaged in paper bags.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that. The next thing is about the 22 swabs of possible blood stains.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my Lord.
So they took the victim's stuff that they collected at her house to the Avery property?
Yep.
That a command post. There.
They had a little trailer on site is a better way to put it.
Yep.
I see. Okay.
And then, so they bring the victim's stuff over to that command post, and they're working with barrel 4, and they switch gears, and on the same report, same day, the same guy goes from barrel 4 to DNA of the victim, because we've got toothbrush, chapstick, moisturizer, hairbrush, and a vibrator.
Mm.
Oh.
And
Yep.
22 swabs, possible blood stains.
Oh, here we go. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave it all there.
Yep. And, of course, what happens on the 8th? You find the key, the license plate, and human cremains in the burn pit, all on the 8th. So, in other words, these guys are playing switcheroo and...
Shell game.
they're playing exactly what I did with the swabs, the shell game with the swabs. Can also be applied to the barrels. Same thing. Same. I think RD
Same
said
motive.
it. Motive, same MO.
Yeah, they're repeating themselves.
Yep. So at the end of the day, if you have the evidence in your possession and you need to frame somebody, it's a piece of cake to do.
Just switch
No
around.
one, just switch it around. Switch the tags, switch the numbers.
Yeah, or the contents if you can't change the outside. Yeah.
And what do we have on the 9th in the interrogation session with Uyghur, Fassbender, and Steven? They do a shopping list to him. What's this doing in your car? What's this doing in your house? What's this doing in your garage? What's this doing in your fire pit? So they listed all the items, as you can see here, the day before, and then they confronted Steven with it.
Yeah. I think it's a good podcast. I think it'll bring a lot of the confusion of the barrels as to how they got up to the Avery property. It says it right there. Ken Kratz is the one ordering it. We know that the barrel mark number 4 is at Deer Camp. We know Kratz is asking it to be brought back from the Avery property. So obviously at some point the barrel marked 4 that was at Deer Camp made it to Avery, or it wouldn't be able to come back from there. Also, we see 645, the barrel completely get just removed from the entire logging system. All of a sudden we see a new barrel called cell phone barrel, and then we have 7102, which is a bone barrel. And in that, when they say cell phone barrel, they're referring to electronic barrel. We've listened to the Kuss Road calls, the dispatch, and they're talking about a barrel. They're talking about cell phone, and they're at Deer Camp. So there's no doubt in my mind. It all came together pretty clear.
Well, there can be no explanation apart from nefarious activities of how that barrel got swapped. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
It can't be a mistake. It can't be a mistake.
We started off talking about the credibility of Kratz.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, what kind of credibility does he have after this?
0.
Yeah.
I'd say minus.
I was just going to say he's in the minus.
He's in the minus.
Minus 0, yeah.
All
He is
right.
so minus. It's minusy.
I want to thank you all for coming on tonight and being so patient. And we also proved that it wasn't just a shallow grave. It was evidence that they said wasn't pertinent to this case. So I think relatively clearly they've switched barrel 2, they've switched over barrel 645 out with Deer Camp, and we have that right through Kratz's mouth himself. So I want to thank Alice, Jeannie, Spooky, Strayan, and Dr. Silkman for joining me tonight.
Thank you for putting this on.
Thank you. Good job.
Boy,
Good job, Rubberducky.
You guys did great. We'll get there. I thank you for the support. And I thank you guys as listeners for the support, keeping Brendan and Steven in the light every day. Keeps them safe. So we need to stay on that, even if you're just sharing a tweet with their name in it. Whatever you're doing that makes the world pay attention, we thank you. And we would do the same for you if you were in that boat. So we appreciate it. And with that, are you guys ready to say our little... try to do it? It always sounds like we're just screaming random stuff. If you did
do the crime, you shouldn't serve your time.
That was even better
Hey,
than
that was
normal.
our best one.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.